أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Questions are available. If you have any questions to raise, then we are ready. If you have any questions, any questions. Any questions? If you have any question, then you can come here and raise your question.
Alaikum salam.
My name is Imam Malick. I am a law student, 4 years, second semester. Doctor, I heard you saying on the topic saying that at times it's very good to show patience, even though in you are not feeling, if I heard you very well, then even in you are not. Yeah, you don't feel okay for getting patient, but you feel patient just to overcome the situation. So I'm saying, how do you reconcile that? You said you will be rewarded if you do that. And Allah will make you among those people who are patient. So I want to know, how do you reconcile that with respect to the hadith who said that every deed depends on the intention of the individual, like with the hadith that says Imam Malick. So how do you reconcile it? Because I believe that with that hadith I'm very confident. The hadith is saying that whatever you are doing, you must have it intentionally there, so you will have the reward of Allah. So now the person who is showing patience, is showing patience outwardly, but internally is not very patient. So I want you to clarify that.
The hadith, إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى. Deeds are judged by their intentions. Every human being, every person will gain and get according to whatever they intended of the deed. So, when that person outwardly is patient, following the instruction of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, seeking to be patient, then Allah will reward him or her for their patience, for their attempt, for their effort, and eventually it will become real patience. So there's no contradiction between the two. If you are showing patience externally because you want to show yourself superior to those around you, that's the wrong intention. You're not going to gain patience from that. Not real patience. But when you control your behavior with the intention of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's what's pleasing to Allah, that you don't show your anger, that you control it, then you are rewarded for that. That's what the good intention is. Your intention was to gain patience, to develop real patience. And the beginning point is external. Because it's always easier to do the external than the internal. It's easier to pray than to pray with full heart, soul, mind. That's much more difficult. Where the whole internal aspect is involved, that's much more difficult than praying externally. Anybody can get up and do the movements. But that's the beginning point. That's where you have to start. Is that clear?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Dr. For Sujood Shukr, I would like Your Excellency to explain how many sujood. And as he said, you don't need to have wudu to perform that kind of sujood. You have to face the Qibla, and when women get in period, can they do the sujood? Inshallah,
actually, part of the question we already answered. We said sujood al-shukr. Sujood al-shukr does not require one to be in a state of wudu. But if one is in a state of wudu, it's good. But it's not a requirement. It doesn't require that one be in a state of tahara. So even a woman who is on her menses can make sujood al-shukr. Thirdly, we said, or we didn't, that facing the Qibla is not a requirement, but doing so is good. If you don't know where the Qibla is, you make the sujood anyway. But it's not a requirement for validity. We can say it's preferable, but not a requirement for validity. The number of sujoods, it's called sujood al-shukr or sajdat al-shukr. One sujood, one after sujood. In our prayers, we're doing two, sitting back in between. This sujood al-shukr is once. You fall down and do it once. Okay, we have some questions for the sisters. Can I ask one of the questions first? Just wanted to ask for clarification on this issue. That in the case of this issue, would it be sufficient just to say, Alhamdulillah? As we said before, what is generally held is that we say Subhana Rabbi al-A'la first, which we normally would have said in sujood. After saying that, then saying Alhamdulillah or any other thing used in our own language is sufficient. Good. Okay. The main thing is that we want to show true gratitude, sincere gratitude to Allah for something that He has done for us in our life.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips, for being on this and for all the clarifications today. I would like to ask some clarification. The terminology Islamic studies, since it was coined by Dr. Adil Zaya, still remains to be used by both parties, both the Orientalists and the Muslims scholars abroad. Actually, some youths who are out around that is civilization of Islam or is coming out again. They go on the net not knowing actually what to look for. So they are in a state of predicament that been bamboozled by so many set of websites in the name of Islam, wherein actually there are so many false and misleading information on Islam online. So I would like to ask, how would you advise such people like myself actually who are constantly on the internet, making research on issues that have to do with Islam and the rest of the audience? Thank you.
Well, with regards to authentic Islamic knowledge, I would recommend that you join the Islamic Online University. That was one of the reasons why the university was set up, to spread authentic Islamic knowledge around the world, to make it as accessible to Muslims anywhere in the world who have access to computer and the internet. So I think that would be a very good beginning point. On my website, there is a list. Some years ago, I asked some people to put together a list of good Islamic websites and identify the bad ones. So there is a list of, the top 50 or 100 websites mentioning why they're considered to be good, etc., grading them, putting them on different levels, and identifying the bad ones also. But in general, if one is searching on the net, or one is buying books, how to know whether you're getting authentic information or not? If what you read is a series of opinions, this person is mentioning, saying this, saying that, saying the other, you don't see Allah said, Qala Allah. The Prophet ﷺ said, Qala Rasulullah ﷺ. You don't see that, then know that that's a site to avoid. Secondly, if you just come across a site where they're only saying Qala Allah, and you don't see any Qala Rasulullah, that's also a site to avoid. If you see a site which says Qala Allah and Qala Rasulullah, but when they're mentioning what the Prophet ﷺ said, they put it in brackets, they put Hadith Sharif. Well, this is a site which may be dubious. They're not telling you where, they just say it's in a Hadith somewhere. Okay? These are the signs of unreliability. When you see, just as you see, they mention Allah said, Surah so-and-so, verse so-and-so. When they say Rasulullah said, it says Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. They're giving you now sources. These are the signs to know that where the good, reliable sites are. And it's not 100%. It's not 100%. But this is just a basic, they call rule of thumb. So you look for the sites that are quoting from the Quran and from the Sunnah, and emphasizing that we must understand the Quran and the Sunnah according to how the Sahaba understood it. That's very important. That knowing the Quran, knowing the Sunnah, but how we interpret the Quran and the Sunnah when we come to apply it, this has to be based on how the Sahaba understood and interpreted the Quran and Sunnah. Because they were present when the Quran and Sunnah was revealed. So they best understood how it was to be implemented. So their value is also among the signs, the presence of those kind of references are among the signs of an authentic Islamic site.
That's happened to me while I was buying some program through the internet. I saw you do saying hadith. At the end, I know that it's from those people, Shia. They are the ones behind that ones.
Our brother is just mentioning that when he was looking to get some things on the internet himself, he just found some references saying hadith, and not saying where it's from. In the end, he found out it was a Shiite site. Questioning concerning the sutra, to put something in front of oneself when praying. How far is it permissible when praying? I mean, it is from the Sunnah to do so, to have a sutra, something which is, something about a foot high, which indicates that you are praying to people, that this is your praying area. That's the basic purpose of it. And if somebody tries to pass between you and the sutra, you can stop them. From the Sunnah to stop them. And if somebody is praying, if someone you find in the masjid, for example, praying, and you don't want to walk in front of them, because you're told not to walk in front of people praying. However, what is considered in front? If they happen to be praying at the back of the masjid, you're not able to go to the front and, no, because you're still walking in front of them. No. What is meant here is between the point where he's standing or she is standing and the point of sujood. What comes after that point of sujood, if you walk there, you're not walking in front of the person. Because the whole issue of walking is breaking their concentration. That's what the whole issue is about. It's not just a ritual that do not walk in front of someone who's praying. Wherever I'm praying here to the wall there, you better not walk in front of me. No. Then that becomes something meaningless. It's just a ritual which has no meaning. What effect does you walking in front of me, 10 meters away have to my salah? So this is the point. And this is also the point of pointing the finger in salah or in tashahhud. Because when you're sitting there, people might think you've finished your prayer. But if your finger is pointed, they know you're still praying. Right? Or if your finger is moving, same thing. So the Prophet ﷺ had said that pointing finger is stronger against shaitan than iron. And this was what it was referring to. It prevents the individual from walking between you and your point of prostration. But some people started to think that, listen, actually it's stronger against shaitan than iron, that actually when you're doing this, you're hitting shaitan in his head. So they start to make their finger and they're working on it. No, this is not what the intention was. This is not, it doesn't match the rest of the salah. The Prophet ﷺ, when he saw people praying, quickly, he said, go back and pray because you didn't pray. And then he explained to them that, praying, it involves, you stand, you pause until all your joints fall back into place, you bend, same thing. Everything is done slowly, gradually, pausing. So it doesn't make sense. All of the prayer is slowly, gradually pausing. And then comes the finger. That's totally, it's contradictory. So the movement of the finger is slow. And also the hadith described that the Prophet's finger was pointed toward the Qibla. So So it means when your finger is like this, you're not pointing to Qibla anymore. When your finger is like this, you're not pointing to Qibla anymore. So it's only in between the range which keeps you on the Qibla. It's in between. So it means no extremes. Right? No extremes. Some people are going this way. You're missing the Qibla here, right? My question is regarding the verse in the Quran in which Allah said, whomever Allah guides is truly guided, and whomsoever he leaves to go astray, none can misguide. No, none can guide. So does that mean Allah misguides people? Allah allows them to go astray. Allah allows them to go astray. If Allah wished to make them guided against their will, He could have. But He allows them to go astray. This is the principle. If a person is sincerely seeking guidance, then Allah will help them get guidance. Because the whole principle of guidance and misguidance, it is not something arbitrary. Meaning, Allah looks at all of His creatures like this, not like this. It has to do with our decisions, our faith, our action. فَلَمَّا زَاغُوا أَزَاغَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُم. When they deviated, Allah caused their hearts to be deviated. So it is human action comes first, then Allah allows them to go astray while still giving them opportunities, but He allows them to take that other path, and eventually they seal their own hearts by continually disobeying Allah. The Prophet ﷺ said in authentic hadith that if a dog put his tongue in a bowl or a cooking pot, the Prophet ﷺ said we should wash it 7 times. Now if he, I guess, defecates, what about that case? The Prophet ﷺ, what he said was clear. You know, if the dog licks in the bowl, you wash it out 7 times. One of the times should be with clean earth. If he defecates, then you clean. Defecates meaning he passes stool. I don't know what term you use in your language. You know, if he does that, then you clean it as you would clean other things. Generally, in Islamic gatherings, people don't clap in applause, but instead they snap their fingers. Oh, I never heard that one. Or say Allahu Akbar. Can you please shed light on this? Is that common here? You snap fingers? To show appreciation? I never heard that either. Clapping, actually, some people make a big deal about it. Say, no, you shouldn't clap, it is the way of the kuffar. But yeah, it's mentioned in the Quran that the disbelievers, their prayer is like clapping and whistling. But it doesn't mean that if you clap, you're a disbeliever, or you're like a disbeliever. That's their prayers. Yeah. You know, you go into the church, they're clapping, singing, you know, but does it mean you can't sing? No, you can still sing. Sing to your child and so on and so. So, clapping in and of itself, though it is not the normal practice of Muslims, it is not in and of itself haram, or you can just say not the custom of Muslims. We say instead, Subhanallah. Okay, some people say, okay, that, you know, the clapping, this is for women. In Salah, you know, if a man makes a mistake, the Imam makes a mistake, and the brothers didn't catch it, then they can clap to let him know, right? But to say, okay, when we're clapping the person that's imitating the women, again, that is stretching it. How can we show gratitude to the Messenger of Allah? I'm interested in your degree program. How do I go about it? Well, you can, degree program, the BA for the Islamic Studies program, Islamic Online University. There are brochures which are being passed around. If you didn't get one, then maybe you can just put your hand up and one will be brought to you. If you haven't received the brochure for the Islamic University, everybody has one. Okay, so there you go to, but I think there are sisters that came late. I don't know whether all the sisters.
What about the sisters? They get one?
They've all received? Okay. Anyway, so you just go to www.islamiconlineuniversity.com and you can go there and register. And I should mention now that arrangement has been made with the Islamic Bank of the Gambia, AJIB, that you can pay your fees there. You just need to go to the teller and inform the teller that you are paying fees for the Islamic Online University, and they will receive those fees and transfer them for you, so you won't be charged any cost for sending your fees overseas. And that is, of course, for the BA program. The diploma program is completely free. There are no charges at all. How can we show gratitude, or how can we show ingratitude to the Messenger of Allah? We show ingratitude to the Messenger of Allah by not following his instructions. He was guided by Allah to guide us. He brought the message to us. We show gratitude by accepting that message and acting on it. We show ingratitude by not accepting that message and rejecting it. What deeds makes a Muslim a disbeliever? Well, the well-known one, the Prophet Muhammad mentioned, is the abandonment of Salah. A person who was supposed to have been a Muslim, if they abandon Salah, especially those who reject the obligation of Salah, right? Not doing it simply out of laziness or something like this, but actually have abandoned the Salah, say, I don't believe that I have to pray, then that is enough to make a person a disbeliever. And worshipping idols, obviously, calling on others besides Allah, knowingly, knowing that this has been prohibited in Islam, etc., that would also put a person in a state of disbelief also.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Okay, my question is concerning showing gratitude to parents. You know, in this Gambian society now, most of the families have turned into like kind of modernized Islamic societies. So I found a situation where in most of the children around under 18, the age of 18, we are into the Western education system. So after finishing education, most of my colleagues that I talk to, they want to go into studying Islamic students, but they are told by their parents that you cannot concentrate on doing Islamic studies and also continue furthering your education Westernly. You understand? So how can you, most people are afraid of saying that they will disobey their parents if they tend to want to pursue that intention without the approval of their parents. So is it permissible? Like if you have the intention of pursuing Islamic education
alongside your Western education to go against your parents in that manner?
The general instruction which the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had said, لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق, that there is no obedience to the creatures of Allah if it involves disobedience to Allah, to the Creator. So the Creator has commanded us to seek Islamic knowledge. When the Prophet ﷺ said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ Muslim, seeking knowledge, religious knowledge fundamentally, is an obligation, a religious obligation on every Muslim. Then, if our parents say, don't seek that knowledge, then we are not obliged to obey them. In fact, to obey them is wrong. Unless it becomes something dangerous to our health, you know, they may beat us, lock us in the house, or whatever. If it's some situation like this, then one may be forced. But other than that, we don't have to get the permission of our parents to seek knowledge of Allah and the religion of Islam. To tell them about it, to inform them, this is our intention, etc. This is being respectful, and it's good to inform your parents what you're doing, let them know, you know, and in a sense, get their approval. But if they disapprove, that doesn't mean that you now abandon your pursuit of knowledge. So you should still go ahead and get it in spite of their disapproval. I see sometimes people going or giving da'wah, they would say, according to Imam Malick's school of thought, or Salafi school of thought, etc., what causes that? And what school of thought is best, and what is second best? Khilaf is the difference between followers of Imam Malik and the Salafis. And the last, what school of thought does Dr. Billal belong to? The school of thought which all Muslims are required to follow is the school of thought of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We all should be following that madhab. That is the correct madhab. That is our shahada. When we say, وَنَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ, and we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of Allah, that is our open commitment to follow his madhab. So, as we don't ask what was the madhab of Abu Bakr, we know it was the madhab of Rasulullah. What was the madhab of Ali? We know it was the madhab of Rasulullah. What was the madhab of Abu Hanifa? What was his madhab? Was he a Hanafi? No. Was Imam Malik a Maliki? No. Shafi'i? No. Hanbali? No. What were their madhabs? All of them followed the madhab of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that is what is obligatory on a Muslim. After that, we do have schools of law that have evolved, and they contain rulings of scholars over the centuries that we benefit from, we can utilize, benefit from. We're not obliged to follow any one madhab. Some people say, well, you have to follow one. You can't follow anyone, because if you follow one time and follow another time, then you are fatwa shopping. No, this is not what fatwa shopping is. Fatwa shopping is when you want to do something and you go looking for somebody who's going to say, okay. That's fatwa shopping. You ask one scholar, he says, haram. Next one, haram. Next one, haram. Next one. In some circumstances, alhamdulillah, that's what I mean. Some circumstances, that's enough. I just want to hear halal. Right? That is fatwa shafi. Right? Otherwise, to study under one scholar and then study under another scholar and to change one's opinion, this is what the scholars did. This is what Imam Shafi'i did. This is what Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal did. This is what the scholars of the past did. You know? So the madhab which we should all adhere to is that of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the best of our ability. Where we are unable, then we follow the madhab of the local scholar. If he says, well, I'm a Maliki, well, okay, you're following the Maliki madhab. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because that's the best source of knowledge that you have. But if evidence comes to the contrary of what you are following, and you are able to understand this evidence shows something else. You know, you were following your local imam, and he said, put your hands at your side in prayer. So you're praying with your hands down at both sides. That's what you were taught. That's the knowledge that was available to you. But then somebody takes you and shows you the Muwatta of Imam Malik, in which Imam Malik himself describes the position of their hands in prayer according to the practice of Rasulullah ﷺ, was to place the right hand on the back of the left. So what do you do there? What do you do there? You have to follow what Imam Malik said Rasulullah ﷺ did. You can't follow what, you know, the followers said Imam Malik did. So, like that, where you have knowledge enough to make a distinction, then you must follow the knowledge that is available to you. From the verses of the Quran, I understand. Those who fear Allah most are those who have knowledge. إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. Notice, knowledge does not necessarily mean those who have faith. And gratitude is a requirement to have faith. Then how does knowledge, faith, and gratitude correlate with fearing Allah? Well, if you don't know who Allah is, you can't fear Him. Right? If you know who He is, but you don't have faith, you still won't fear Him. And gratitude is the basis for fearing His displeasure. Not necessarily fearing His punishment. That's the knowledge that you will be punished if you disobey Allah. But fearing Allah based on not wanting to displease Him, and that is the higher level of fear. Because you have fear which is on the basic level, that's fear of punishment. The higher level is fear of displeasure. When you don't want your father to be unhappy with you. You're a big man now, you can't punish him anymore. So you don't do certain things because you don't want him to be unhappy. That is on a higher level than when you were little and you didn't do it because you didn't want to get a beating.
Last question.
Assalamu alaikum, Doctor. My name is Abu Bakr Jede. I thank you very much. I have been following your programs and activities. I benefited a lot, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. The question I want to ask is sort of inquiries. After the demise of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we learned that Muslims were united under one leader or Khalifa. That's Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. After Abu Bakr came Umar ibn Khattab, coming to Usman Ali, and this continued for a long period in history. After some point or time, it was abolished due to some reasons. I'm asking whether, being an eminent scholar who traveled to many countries, come into contact with many scholars in other places, is there any effort going on to unite Muslims under one ummah, under one Khalifa or Amir, as it was after the marriage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? That's my question. Thank you.
The issue of uniting Muslims under one caliph, it's been, or one leader, it has been proposed at different times. Reality, however, is that ignorant Muslims will likely unite behind the wrong caliph. If we don't have knowledge, then uniting behind the caliph may be dangerous. When the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ sent a group of companions with an emir out on a particular assignment, and the emir was the head of their group, he told the people with him, following him, to gather sticks, branches. They gathered it, and he told them, make a big bonfire. They lit it up. It was blazing bonfire. Then he told them to ride into it. They didn't. They refused. They said, we joined Islam to get away from the fire, not ride into it. So he was their emir. Right? So when they brought the situation back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet ﷺ said, if you had ridden in, you wouldn't have ridden out. Means you would have committed suicide, which would put you in hell. So there is that point where you don't obey the emir. Now if you didn't have the knowledge that they had, what would you have done? You'd have ridden in. So this is where it is important that the ummah, the level of knowledge of the ummah has to raise to the point where it can choose or can follow correct leadership. Otherwise, people end up with leaders who are not worthy of leadership. When Khomeini led ideologically the so-called Iranian Revolution, people were calling for him to be the Khalifa. And you had people from the Ikhwan, etc., who made bay'ah to Imam Khomeini. Because Khomeini was saying, neither East nor West, neither Sunni nor Shi'i. That's what he was saying. But his books were saying something else. See, he was just using this as a front to try to rally people behind him. So, this is why the call for Khalifa at this point in time is premature and in fact becomes dangerous. Because you have different people in different Muslim lands today now who are making this call, and they're bringing followers behind them. And the followers are doing all kinds of things in the name of Islam, which are really not from Islam. So it is really a dangerous call at this time. And I would warn you to beware of it. Focus on gaining sufficient knowledge to be able to distinguish between right and wrong in your deen. This is what is most important now. Access the knowledge and learn the deen, become solid and grounded. When the time is right, the scholars around you will indicate the way to go. They will show the way. Inshallah, you'll be among the scholars. But beware of the call of the Khalifa today. Because also know that the Prophet ﷺ had said that if the Khalifa is chosen and someone else calls to be the Khalifa, kill him. So beware. You'll find people running around now killing each other, saying We have the real Khalifa, your Khalifa is not the real one, you know. So this is where it leads to. Very dangerous. Very dangerous.
This will be the last question of the day. Last question.
Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Billal, I was meant to know that if you have a gun pointed behind your head, to say kufur, that there is no God on this, you are allowed to say kufur in order to save your life. In this case, where you work in an institution where the sunnah of the Prophet is not allowed, you are not allowed, to practice certain acts of the Prophet at work. Is it permissible to bypass those commands until after hours, or you should just quit?
Come again? I know about the gun to your head. What was the second part?
The second part is like if you work in an institution where the sunnah of the Prophet or certain acts are not allowed at work, are you allowed to bypass them for work hours? After work hours you continue, or you should just quit that particular job?
Okay, the question is based on a circumstance in Islam. We know where if your life is threatened, you are allowed to say words of disbelief, etc., in order to save your life. We know Sahaba did that. Some did. Some didn't. Some gave up their lives. But we know as a general principle it is permissible. If somebody puts a gun to your head and says, bow down to this idol, you can bow down to the idol to save your life. If you choose not to bow down to the idol and you die, you're a martyr. That's your choice. But it's not an obligation on you. If we take that now into the workplace today, where the workplace says you have to wear a particular dress code, which you know is un-Islamic, it's exposing your aura or whatever. Are you as a Muslim allowed to do it in that period of time in the workplace, and then when you get off work you put on proper clothes, etc.? No, it's not the same situation, because your life is not being threatened. Nobody's put a gun to your head. You can find another job. Maybe it's not as good paying or whatever. So we don't make that kind of distinction. In the case of where we have choices, then we try to choose what is best and most pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, that was supposed to be the last question, but actually there is a question from the sisters here I think we should ask. My question is, are ladies given the opportunity to be a part of this institution? This institution, I'm assuming this means Imam Malick Institute. I'm assuming that. So, are they allowed to be a part of this institution?
Yeah, it's permissible.
They're asking how can, if it is so, then how can students who want to learn the Quran and Sunnah in Islam in this institution, how do they have access to it?
Because we have a day school, you have to join the school and do
Answer to that question, if you want more information, you can come here, then the principal will give you more information. If you want to join, you can come here as a student, you can join as a student. Yes. Therefore, Mr. Honorable Billal, we thank you very much for being accepting our invitation to come and deliver this wonderful message here. And we thank all the audience that are here. Thank you all.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك